Hey everyone, it has been a while after starting a new position and then teaching in the evenings for an actual boot camp, a tech sales boot camp. I just haven't had the bandwidth and the time to make a video, at least as of late. Also, I did come out with a Udemy course. If you follow me on LinkedIn, you've probably seen that. So that's been taking up a very significant bulk of my time as well. Anyways, in this video, I want to talk through a rather hot topic that I see going around in the YouTube universe as well as on LinkedIn, and that's whether or not a sales development rep can transition into a sales engineer, or having a sales development rep act as that initial stepping stone to become an actual sales engineer. So for those of you who don't know, a sales development rep or a business development rep, you might have heard the terms SDR and BDR, is really your entry level into tech sales. They're typically the ones that are responsible for qualifying the lead for any inbound requests. So think of a prospect coming in through the website, through a webinar, through a trade show, whatever the case may be. There's a prospect that somehow entered into the sales funnel as a marketing qualified lead, and the sales development rep is the one that qualifies that. They're also oftentimes responsible for doing outbound requests, so actually doing cold calls, cold emails, regardless of what it may be. They also are oftentimes doing the outbound reach out as well. So let's talk through, can a sales development rep, or how would a sales development rep transition and move into sales engineering as the next step of their tech sales career. All right, so before we get any further, if you don't know what a sales engineer is, definitely check out my video where I talk you through what is a sales engineer. You can see some of my videos behind me here on my screen. Yep, there we go, cool stuff there. But let's go into it. So let's talk through, could an SDR be a good first step into you getting an ultimate goal of landing a sales engineer position? And in my humble opinion, I think depending on your situation, it can be. So contrary to popular belief from other YouTubers and people I'm seeing on LinkedIn, if you come from a background that is completely unrelated to technology or sales, you landing a sales engineer position, I think is going to be significantly harder than if you did go into the SDR role first, get the tech sales experience, understanding the sales process, the sales funnel, how to actually communicate with customers, demonstrate empathy and compassion, and just going through the entire motions to initially get that exposure into sales. I think if you're having trouble, that can be a great first step for all of you to get that 1 to 2 years of experience to land that ultimate goal. With that being said, it's not necessarily going to be the path for everyone. If you do come from a background where you already have some level of sales experience, or maybe you were a software developer, you've worked in help desk or IT, those are also skill sets that can be transferable to an SE position. So maybe you continue on that path in IT or in some other types of sales, and you can translate that to an SE role. So the rule of thumb I like to take is there's not really a one size fits all. I hate when people say, you can't do it this way when you absolutely can. It depends on each individual's, what's the word I want to think of? Each individual's unique experiences and where they are within their own career and their job journey in order to land that ultimate goal as a sales engineer. So if you are an SDR today, or you land that first job as an SDR, the next question is, how do I transition from an SDR to an SE? So I'll give credit where credit's due. I think all these other influencers make a good point that the role of an SDR and an SE are like comparing apples and oranges. There's of course some overlap, but they are inherently different roles. However, because of that overlap, it could still of course make sense for you to go that path first. And it's also a jumping stone into potentially demonstrating your own skill set within that organization you land an SDR role in. So what I would like to say is the first step, if you are an SDR and you want to transition to an SE, is identify if you can transition to the sales engineering team within the organization you're an SDR for. And there's certain ways to position yourself to become and be looked at as the next candidate for that SE position that comes up in the future. And the first is just learn as much as you can about the product. I've worked with salespeople across my 10 years as a sales engineer, and the best sales reps that I've ever worked with are just hungry. They want to know and learn as much as possible. I say to them all the time, you can honestly be a sales engineer yourself because you're so interested in the technology. You want to know how everything works. So what you can do as a sales development rep is do the same thing. Learn as much about the product as you can. Set up one-on-ones with sales engineers that you work with to walk you through different parts of the solution. If you don't have sales engineers at your company, set up time with individuals maybe from your product team, or if you have some sort of customer support team, you can set up regular cadences with them and have them walk you through your actual solution. If your company has any sort of on-demand training or certifications, that's something you could work towards as well. But you, as a first step into making that transition, you want to demonstrate, hey, I'm actually technical myself. I want to learn the tech. I'm very interested in learning the technology and eventually transitioning to a more tech-focused role. That's your first step in order to sell yourself as, a future sales engineer at your organization, or even as you transition to another organization. Another thing you could do is just shadow your fellow sales engineers or pay attention to what your sales engineers are actually saying when you're working with them on your customer calls. So take notes of what they're doing as a part of the product demonstration, how they're selling value, not features. Take note of that. Of course, you want to take note of the better sales engineers at your company, because just like with everything, there's great SEs and okay SEs. So make sure you really take notes of the great SEs, the ones that are getting a lot of accolades from your team, and just take notes. Identify the questions that they're asking customers as well. This is a critical role of a sales engineer, is asking great questions, just like it is with SDRs, as well as AEs, account executives. So if you understand and you can follow along the type of technical questions that your SEs are asking in order to identify the business needs, the current environment, the use case, so on and so forth, that'll also help propel you to become a sales engineer yourself. So now that you shadowed your sales engineers, the next thing you should do is practice. Practice delivering a product demonstration yourself. Because if you want to become a sales engineer, you should naturally encompass the skills necessary to be a sales engineer. And one of the main roles and responsibilities of an SE is to do a very strong product demonstration. So you should definitely work on that, because as you're going through the interview process, or if you land an interview with your current employer, there's no doubt going to be a time where they're going to ask you to do a product demo during that interview process. So you'll already have that ironed out. Even if you get an SE interview at another company, oftentimes they'll ask you to do a product demo of a solution of your choice. If you work for a tech sales company and you've already practiced a demonstration and you've worked on that product demonstration of your current employer's solution, guess what? You're good to go. You'll feel very confident. You'll feel very comfortable with that part of the actual interview process. I also recommend, similar to, shadowing sales engineers, learning as much as the product as you can, is attend any trainings as well as any sort of technical sessions that you see your actual company hosting. So a lot of times sales reps will push back on that and be like, oh, no. That's my sales engineering team. I am not technical. That's my better half. He or she does the heavy lifting. No, if you want to become a sales engineer, you need to engross yourself in the technology. So if there's any sessions, any sorts of conferences in which you can learn either industry trends or what's going on across a specific vertical or across the product segment that you support, all the better on you, because that'll make you a more well-rounded sales professional to eventually, again, land that SE position. And of course, last but not least, is just like general sales, is build a relationship with various sales engineers, as well as specifically your own sales engineering team. I mentioned this already, but it is a lot easier as an SDR at one company to transition to an SE within that same company, then become an SDR at one company and then an SE at a different company. Not saying it's impossible, but it is easier because you can demonstrate your value with your current employer a lot easier than demonstrating your value with a new employer. So building relationships is often going to be a way in which you can land that SE position, both inside your organization and outside of your organization. Build up your network, go to networking events, reach out to other sales engineers. Those are all great ways to really demonstrate and show that you want to be a sales engineer. That's your 1 to 2 years goal from where you are as a sales development rep. All right, so I know this video was rather quick, but I wanted to give my fresh perspective. Again, I've seen many of my friends start out in sales that are now sales engineers. I've seen some of my students go into sales first or have a sales background first that landed SE positions. Of course, they did do other training like the boot camp that I teach for, or like my Udemy course that helped prepare them for that role as a sales engineer. But I wanted to really provide a fresh opinion for all of you because I keep on hearing that no, you can't become a sales engineer, or it's really hard to become a sales engineer as an SDR, as an SC. The reality is it's really hard to become a sales engineer to begin with. We're a unique role within an organization that we're both sales focused as well as technical, and that's hard to fulfill for. What I will say is, just to recap everything I've been saying, depending on your situation, having that SDR background could be more beneficial than your current background. However, if you are in a unique situation where you have something that is very transferable to an SE position, I would probably still ride along that path and just start applying for SE positions and maybe get experience by attending a course or just ramping up your ability to demo, improving your resume, improving your ability to interview and sell yourself for those SE positions. Either way, it's going to be on a case-by-case basis. I'm curious to get all of your situations by writing in the YouTube comments below what your opinion is on SDRs transitioning to SEs. If you're in agreement with me, if you're not in agreement with me. This is kind of like one of those fun discussions where there's multiple opinions and feelings around this subject, but I'd love to hear all of yours. And hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you're trying to land a job as an SE, best of luck to you. I hope you can get there one day, and feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions regarding the role of an SE as well. So until the next video, take care everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I'll try to create these more often than I have been in the past. I think this is the latest one since 8 or 9 months ago, but nice to see you all again.